All right. Well, hey guys, we are here for it is week 5. We've been a little disjointed this month, but week 5 of Builder Circle. So I'm glad you're here. We've also opened it up because the majority of our team was participating. So even if this is your first time here, you're welcome. We're going to be really focusing on how do we build this business, especially coming through the season we've come through with the oncoming of Optavia 3.0. There's a lot of cool things in the works. So I am recording this. I'll post it in the group because we had several people who were out of town. Meg is out of town. Frank and Shauna are out of town. It's Shauna's birthday today, too, if you haven't seen that. I wish her happy birthday. And a few others. So Bill Ellis, a few others had let me know. So glad you're here. And I'm just going to share a couple of things before we jump into the topic, which the topic tonight is building connections and building relationships outside of social media. So, but before we go too much into that, just a few things I wanted to share. We've got Optavia 3.0 around the corner. And I just saw today, and honestly, your guess is as good as mine, what will be shared. But Kelly, can you see my screen right now? Yeah. But they just Dan Bell's call at 8:30 tonight. They're going to do it as a sneak peek into what's coming on the horizon. So I'm not sure if something new is going to be shared. It would be certainly fun if something is, but that is at 8:30 tonight. So just kind of flow for this evening. We're going to meet now until 7:28. We'll open up the room at that point for whoever joins in. I thought we'd spend some time at that point going over the new Coach Hub and Client Hub because when we introduced that before, it we didn't have a lot of time to dig into it, and you've had some time to look at it. And then you can join the client support call, and then there's Dan's call. So there is a lot happening. So, but before we jump into the how, the what, like, oh, go do this or go do that. I think it's important. It dawned on me today that, we're a little over halfway through this group. You may have even lost your focus of what you said it was your reason for coaching and why you wanted to do this. But we're halfway through the year already. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is losing sight of what our vision is, or maybe not even having a vision. But really, in order to have success, we've got to have the vision, and then you've got to have your why behind that. Why does it matter to you? And then come the goals, and then the actions. So, because it's very, very easy to focus on the actions or not do the actions because we're unclear of the goal, or we feel uncertain, or we feel unsteady, or whatever it might be. So, what I would love for you to do right now is just take a few minutes. We're just going to do an exercise right now and write down in 6 months. All right. So 6 months from now, it's June. So it would be December, right? December 1st. In 6 months, what do you want your life to look like? So there's a couple of questions. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your health to look like? What do you want your finances to look like? And how do you want to feel when you wake up each day? And then let's expand that out and write these down as well. This is going to be a takeaway exercise for you to do as well, because more thoughts will come as you give this some more time. But let's look at 12 months from now. So now it's June 1st, 2027. Optavia 3.0 has rolled out. It's in full momentum. 12 months from now, what would make you most proud? What opportunities would become possible? What stress would be gone? And then how would this translate? Like what experiences or what could this do for you and your family? And then with going deeper with that is that's getting more into the heart of why we're doing this. Yes, we want to serve people. Yes, we want to help people. Yes, we know we have a great program and a great business opportunity. But in order to do the things that are required, right, to make ourselves vulnerable, to make connections, to have conversations, to put ourselves at risk of rejection, etc., we've got to be deeply rooted within our heart to what it is that we truly want. And we've gone through a season for those of you guys that have been on, with us for a while, where there's been a lot of disappointment, a lot of regression, a lot of, things not going the way that we want. And I know even personally, it's easy for me to kind of let go of the dream, let go, right? It's easier not to. And then I'm just wishing, hoping, etc., or frustrated with myself because I'm not taking the action that I know would truly make the difference that I'm looking for. And I can tell you that, evidence shows across the company coaches that are actively taking the actions with the belief behind it are getting the results that they're looking for in terms of new client acquisition and new client growth. So just wanted to take a few minutes to sit with that because just like with our clients, and I've had a couple of conversations over the past few weeks, even with a very experienced coach. But the goals are not what us make like people don't stay committed because of the goals. They stay committed because of the person and how they want to feel when the goal is accomplished. Right. So if you have somebody who says like, I'm going to try, I'm really trying to stick to the 5 and 1. Well, that has become the goal versus making decisions that align with who and what it is that they want. So take us off video for a second for that, or take us off screen share. Any comments or anybody want to share um, based on that? This is our safe space. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very pleased and 1 being not so much? How pleased are you with the direction things have been going since January for you? So over the past 6 months, scale of 1 to 5, 1, not very happy, 5, pretty impressed with myself. Where would you say you fall? You can put that in the chat if you want. A 2, 5. Great, Kelly. That's good. 2. Okay. 2, 3. Okay. 2, 5. So I like this, that people who are very happy with the direction things are going. That's good. 3 in the last 2 months. Okay. Talk about that, Pat. Do you mind sharing?
No, I don't mind. It was probably a 1 before that. I had everything go in the wrong direction, and now I've at least got my health going in the right direction. I'm starting to make, you know, moving in the way.
Good. Good. It's amazing what that does with our mindset, right? When
Yeah.
what was it, do you think, that helped you shift? Or did you just hit a pain point?
Um, you know, I was just so comfortable and not really paying attention, and it was just hard to make that final. There's always something that's fun going on and something to do, and I just kept putting it off. And I guess it is a pain point thing. I was finally, line in the sand kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And with the business, did that take a back seat as well? And it's hard to say chicken or the egg, what came first, but
yeah, yeah, the business has been suffering for a while, and it's getting better, but it's still. I was I was great about a year ago as far as really trying to get my business going, and I think the fact that it moved none, um, and then um, and then I got off track with eating and everything about last summer. So
Mhm.
the first half of last year was great, but I didn't have any results. I'm hoping that now if I can get my actions going correctly and get my health back where I wanted it to be, that there's enough. It does seem like there's more activity generally for everybody. So, I'm hoping that I'll have better results this time around.
Good, good. And it's, I think anytime we lose momentum or we have something happen, like what happened over the past few years, it does become like it was at the beginning. It's kind of like pushing that boulder up the hill to create the momentum. And what's hard when we try to get started, restarted, is we might get motivated for a short time, push, and then we don't see immediate outcome, we let go, and then push, and then, right. And it just can
Yeah.
kind of fall into that. So,
Mhm.
okay, thanks for your honesty around that. How about you, Dominique? A five. So did that mean five? Very happy with everything?
I am, Dee, and I'm just really content because the way I coach is I love I do a lot of Zooms with my clients now. I really switched to that. Before it was phone calls. Now I'm almost doing all Zooms, and it made a huge difference for me. So, and for them, mainly for them, actually. So I love it. I'm just really coaching well. I can't say I had a lot of new clients, but I have a lot of returning clients, and I'm coaching them totally different with body composition, all that. And it's very satisfying for me. So I really feel very productive in the day, and it's just at the end of the day, I tell my husband, I'm like, wow, this was a great day. So and it's fun. It's fun to see that. It's fun to see those body composition changing, the visceral fat going down, metabolic age going down. I'm having just a lot of fun. So even though my business is, I mean, it is growing. So, but not to the extent I want to, but I'm having a lot more fun with it. So
That's huge. That is huge. And I don't know about you. Did you feel like drawn to Dominique as she was talking about like the shift or the energy? Like I'm having fun with this, whatever. And I think there's so much truth to people follow energy and positivity and you feel it. And so thank you for sharing that because I was immediately drawn like, ooh, like you're right. Like I want to know more about that. What can you share with the group about how you transitioned to like doing a Zoom call? And especially as you've had somebody come back, like how are you describing that it's different now and helping them engage so that they don't come back and recreate what they've always done before?
and that's a little bit of a challenge. You're right. So, but I just set the tone in the beginning. I said, I have shifted. My life has shifted, and the company has shifted. But if you're interested, if you don't want, because these are people coming back, right? If you don't want to get where you were before and gain it back, let's find a different strategy. I get them the Renfro scale, and they actually do like it. So and I said, I don't want you to look. Well, some of the clients still weigh every day. I said, put the scale away once a week. So and let's look at your body composition. And I teach them because they send it to me and they say, here it is. I said, well, I want you to look at it and I want you to learn from it. Where did your, and there's three factors that are really important: the skeletal muscle, the visceral fat, subcutaneous fat. That's really the major ones. Protein and hydration, you see that too. But I have them look at these three factors. So what changed? So, and they're like, yes, this changed, this changed. And so, and I just tell them, I said, I'm doing Zooms now, so this is what it is. So if you want to be successful, this is how we're going to move forward. And,
And
and,
are
and
you able to keep the Zoom? What's the duration, like the length of a Zoom?
it's probably a little longer than I would want it to be, but I try to keep 20 minutes, and I can stay within 20 minutes. So sometimes it's a little longer, and sometimes a little shorter. So, but 20 minutes is kind of the standard, I would say. So yeah.
Okay. I think that's a really good takeaway for us. That's one thing. I have shifted everybody to the metabolic scale. And I will say, like in the past, I used to say, text me your weight, before we talk, nobody would. I will say probably 70 to 80% of my clients will text me that their screenshot from their Renfo scale on the day of their, their call. So, but I do like the idea of that human connection, that face to face. I think people really don't even like the phone anymore, and Zoom is becoming so commonplace. So, good points, real good points. Um, okay. So one thing we know for a fact, right, is that social media is not the tool that it was in the past for us, right? Technology changes, algorithms change, relationships, that's what's going to endure is true connections with people. So the future of our business and in today's environment really is in connection with people, building trust, building relationship. And that's going to happen when you're visible, like out in your community, doing things, talking to people face to face, et cetera. There's just no way around this, you guys. It is really where it is at in today's world. So a good question to ask yourself is, if social media disappeared tomorrow, how would you meet people? How would you connect and stay connected with people if it was gone? Which for some of us, it kind of is, right? Because it doesn't get anywhere, the return, right? I still show up out there, but I don't get really anything from social media anymore. And even some of our top people who used to get really big returns with social media, it's nowhere where it used to be. So it really is in person. So first, if you want, you can screenshot this. Let's just talk about where we know that society is craving connection. They're wanting trust. They're wanting to build relationships. So can you see my screen here? The blue screen? Okay. So we're going to have some of our team members share and go more in detail with this, but this is just like an initial brain dump of ways that you can get out into your community, meet people, do things. So there's always networking events. We're going to have some people share on that. There's formal, informal networking events. There's your local chamber of commerce. They have all different types of things that you can participate in as a member, non-member, after hours events, breakfast events, lunch events, speaker events. There's all sorts of things. There's, of course, professional organizations or groups that you could join if you wanted to be part of a Rotary Club or a flower group or Audubon Society, something like that. There's always your church. There's opportunities to volunteer, seeking speaking engagements with said groups, participating in health fairs, having tables, participating in community events, being out and about, even if it's your local farmers market, just being out, maybe talking to people, creating business relationships with people in your community. This is something I did a lot of when I first started coaching, and I was reminded to come back to is building relationships with people that are interacting on a regular basis with people that you could potentially refer each other to. So that would be your chiropractors, personal trainers, physical therapists, people of that nature. WOW groups. This is something new, Women of Wellness. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Just started one in the Atlanta area. Coaches are starting them around the US, 100% an option for you. Hosting metabolic reset events, joining a gym, a fitness class, walking groups, interest groups. And then there's a million things that you could do at home in your own environment, in your neighborhood, in your community. Healthy pizza nights, salad in a jar party, healthy happy hour, whatever you wanted to create, that's totally something that can be done. So I thought we'd start first with you, Julie Apple. I know you're doing a variety of things to get out into the community.
Yeah. Yes, Facebook is a different place today. Anybody else see that? So it was an interesting kind of progression for me because for quite a while I had a little kiddo at home that kind of kept me from doing as much in the community. But last year when she started school, pretty much 8 to 2, I had more time on my hands to be able to get connected. And so if you work full time or if you have grandkids or kids, I definitely relate. But I think it is still possible. It's just you have to be very strategic with your schedule and fitting it in and finding the opportunities. And so once Lily started school, I started seeking out different things that I could get connected with. So like on that list, somebody at church asked if I wanted to help plan women's events at church. And I said, yes, please, I'd love to do that. It fits perfectly with what I already do, coaching. So I've been able to help coordinate events. And then in January, they asked me to speak at our event. So I got to talk all about health and wellness with all the ladies at church. So those kind of events or places where you can get connected and things that fit what you're already doing are perfect. There's a place or a local group called Ladies Lifestyle Network. Um, Write that down and look it up and see if it's in your area. I think that honestly is one of the best group of women that I have connected with. It started in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I live in Greensboro, which is about an hour and a half away. They have a ton of them in Charlotte. I think they might have spread to some other really big cities. But it's quality women, and most of them are business owners, and it's more of a social. I've met some really great ladies that we become friends, and it meets monthly. So that has been a really great, actually, my last life coaching client. I was telling Dee, I have some interesting the way things of the activity, but I met her through this Ladies Lifestyle Network group. And so she's become a client. Um, so that's been one great way to network and meet with other people to coach. Um, I also started a corporate wellness job. I'm a contractor through, it's called Health Designs, and they do coaching. Now I can't do Optavia coaching with them, and I'm coaching hospice employees locally, which is so cool. But one of them's about to retire, and she just asked me, "Hey, can you still help coach me?" So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to meet people. And if they don't stay employees or they retire, it's an awesome way to help coach people. So if you're already doing this and you're not working full time and you want some extra income, maybe you can find a corporate job, a contract job, and you can meet more people that way. So I just started getting really, really strategic about what I would spend my time doing. Health fairs is another one. My husband works at the Volvo corporate office here in town, and they do health fairs that are huge, like the amount of employees there. So I've done a corporate or like a wellness fair with them and had a table. And I just brought my little handheld body fat tester because I didn't want to bring anything else really. But there were so many guys that walked by and other ladies that were very fascinated by the handheld body fat tester. And so I did that with people at the table, just have something fun to do. Well, fun, something for people to participate in. Um, and then I also got connected to a Friday Women Business Owners Network group that somebody invited me to. And a lot of this was just prayer, like open the doors, Lord, connect me to the right people. And people started inviting me to things. And I was like, I'll try it. I'll try it. I found ones I didn't like so much, and I found the ones I do like. So you probably have to try a lot of different places and see if you like the people that are there and what the purpose is and is it going to fit what you're looking for. So don't be discouraged if you go and you're like, oh, this is not my kind of people. Um, Try a different one. So I had to go through that as well. And I think, let me see if there was anything else I wrote down. Speaking, just invite, like tell people that you want to speak, that you love sharing. And it's amazing what starts to happen when you actually just share that. I had another lady invite me to come speak at her kids' cheerleading group and share with the coaches and the team, the girls on the team. And I said, oh, I'd love to come share. So once people know that, you'll be surprised where they invite you to come share. So hopefully that gives you guys some ideas.
That's great. Any questions for Julie, or what topics did you share on, Julie, when you spoke about health?
So the one I did in January, I did a bigger overview of just health and wellness in general. But I talked about I absolutely love teaching women and moms and grandmothers about the importance of educating. Well, one, getting educated themselves, but also two, educating their family and their kids and leading by example. So I talked about that at the women's event and how to be healthy as a mom or a grandmother. And then for the one most recently, it was with the senior group at our church. And so I talked a lot about what you can do at that season of life. And we got onto the topic of type 2 diabetes. And that was a very eye-opening discussion because a lot of them were pretty much like, I'm just going to be stuck on medicine the rest of my life. Which was so discouraging to hear them say all these things. But it brought an awareness that I was very shocked about. And so I was able to have some follow-up discussions with some of them, shared about Optavia, but they're not very open-minded yet. But it was good to be able to teach them about the opportunity to change. You can reverse diabetes. You can type 2. You can like change your health. You have a choice. So I just tailored it to the groups I was sharing with, what would hopefully impact them and help educate them.
Love it. Love it. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Julie, it's Monica. Hey,
Hey.
hey, are you predominantly sort of what as far as when you're teaching them, are you kind of gearing them towards 5-in-1, or are you just kind of giving them an overall wellness thing, and then if you get more like intimate with them or whatever, then you kind of determine the plan or
That's been my approach. I guess everybody personally can decide how you want to do it, but in a room like that, there's so many different needs and just
yeah.
various issues. And so I don't necessarily want to like drill into just one option. And so I usually do more just general education. And I think when you go in with the goal of educating, people can sense that versus trying
Yeah.
to sell a program.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna read right through that. And like the trust factor I was telling Dee, I mean, how many of you want to get to know somebody before you buy something, before you do a house project? I mean, we have 10 things to do in our backyard, and you better believe I'm gonna interview and talk to all of them before we just make a decision, right? So
Yeah.
people are so what did we call it? The trust recession. We're talking about that all the time with our habit finder coaches. People don't trust anybody anymore. So if you go in with this mentality of you're going to try to sell a program, people's flags go up immediately. So my encouragement is just go in with a heart to educate and help, and then
Mm-hmm.
people will come up to you afterwards. But I will say this is a great question, Monica. I have left little like information like with my info, like fill in their name, their email, their phone number, and then what their goals are. And so I've left those whenever I speak. I tell them I'm leaving some sheets. If you want to give me your info, I'd love to follow up with you. So that
Mm-hmm.
there is a way for people to write down their information, and then afterwards I can follow up and find out what are you needing? You wrote this? What, tell me more.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I love that.
And then
Yeah.
have the one-on-one discussion and help narrow it down to what they need.
Right, right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You could even use the metabolic scan, like have a QR code or something like, hey, if you want to dive deeper, take a free assessment and have that, and then it would trap, capture their info and do it. And even something that's possible, and I know we're talking about in person, but even being on a Zoom like this is more personal than somebody just reading a post on a page or something like that. So, another coach that I've been partnering with in the Atlanta area to host some live events is Lisa Whaley, who's a long-term coach, probably 18 to 20 years, global director. And she just hosted an event. She's doing a lot of impromptu things in her home. But she had been talking to another coach or whatever, and they just created an event where she said, hey, I'm going to have a special guest speaking about women's metabolism in their 40s and above. And the special guest was another coach that she was friends with, right? And so she invited people. She had about 6 people come to her house, and she Zoomed her in because the coach lives in California. And then she told people she was going to do this and they could tap into the virtual event. And she had 37 people show up for the virtual event. So it was more about the generic conversation about your metabolism, what can you do, and eating every 2 to 3 hours and balancing blood sugars, etc. And if you need more help, there's tools. This is what Lisa does. This is whatever. But it was more of an education where anybody could walk away with helpful information. But I thought that was pretty interesting that many, like 6 people at her home and 36, whatever people virtually. And so that's something any of us could do. And we could rely on each other to be the special guest, or you could do it yourself. I mean, if you felt confident, but I could help you, any of us could help. So that is something that we could do or even pull together if you wanted.
And one other thing I just thought of is like each one of us probably specializes in different things. So when you're sharing, like what gets you excited? What do you feel confident talking about? And share that. Because if you try to go in there and you don't feel comfortable and you're not sure what you're going to talk about, that doesn't go over well either. So if you already have like a passion and this is my area of expertise, share about that. Sorry. Make sure you're doing something that is your thing.
Yeah, really good point. Really good point. All right, we are going to shift over to Texas with Kelly McCullough. So, Kelly, you are active in the community, I know, with local BNI groups. I see you go to other professional, conferences. I know you do speaking engagements. So, would love to hear what you can share with us.
Hey, thanks, Steve, for asking me to speak. The one of the biggest things that I do, of course, every week is BNI. And most people have heard of BNI, Business Networking International, and it is a perfect setting because you're expected to talk about your business. And you do a little, it depends on the size of the chapter as far as how long your commercial is. It might be 45 seconds, it might be 60 seconds, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to say in that time? But you can actually share like a client success story in that brings in some of the things that you do. And you're going to be doing this every week. So the members are going to hear that every week. The visitors are going to hear it. But I want to give a word of caution. Not every BNI group is active. Not every BNI group has people that show up like they're supposed to and follow what they're supposed to do. And so what I do is I drive further to go to a group that is rated really high in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for referrals. And so, over $3 billion in referrals amongst 40 people in that one chapter was passed on last year. Okay, for example. And they're only allowed to have one person of any particular thing. So I'm the only dietitian health coach there. So now you also have access to all the other BNI chapters. When you're in BNI, you can visit the other chapters and meet those other people. And so that is very impactful, which I have done. I've subbed for other people when they couldn't be there. You're supposed to get a sub when you can't be there. And I've subbed for other people. They subbed for me. And so that's another way to get out. Now, I just came back from a professional conference. I went to a functional medicine conference, guys. That is what we do. If you didn't know that, functional medicine is what we're doing. We're getting to the root cause, that we're addressing the root cause. Metabolic dysfunction is the root cause. And, fat on our body is just one of the symptoms of that metabolic dysfunction. So I've been going to these because that's what since I've been doing this business, that's where I've switched to get my continuing education hours for my license anyway. But you have the opportunity to meet a lot of people and network with a lot of people when you go in person. And a lot of these folks are traditional medical doctors. Some of them are naturopathic doctors, but a lot of them are MDs that have switched over to doing more functional medicine stuff, or they're interested in trying to incorporate some of these things into their practice. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to network with some people and ask, and just find out what they were doing. And I was shocked. One of the classes I went to was about GLP-1s and how to incorporate it into your practice, and also with lifestyle medicine. So the speaker did a good job of talking about some things. But she asked for a show of hands of how many people were prescribing it, and nearly the whole room raised their hand. And I was surprised by that, because these folks are supposed to be going more for natural remedies and not just handing out scripts. Okay. So a lot of them do some extra testing, and they charge extra for that insurance doesn't pay for. And they address some things that regular, just traditional doctors are not even addressing or looking at. So they're doing that. But a lot of them do not have any idea how to get somebody to the point that we're doing, that 98% muscle retention or better, and that fat loss. Y'all, we have the corner of the market on that. Nobody else is doing that. They're recommending things like the Mediterranean diet. Okay, it's high carb. If you don't know that, it's high carb, and yeah, you can do a calorie restriction on that, but it's not what we have. Okay, because we get them in a fat burning mode instead of a glucose burning mode. Other things that I do, speak at professional meetings. I'm asked to speak at professional meetings because I was a dental hygienist before I became a dietitian and health coach. A lot of dental places asked me to come and speak at conferences. Some are really big, like 11,000 people or 20,000 people or something, but I'm not speaking to all of them. I'm speaking to a room that has about 700 to 1,000 in it. Okay. And I'm presenting there. And a lot of times people will decide to contact me later, and I leave contact on because I do a PowerPoint. So I'm leaving the contact on that. And I talk about a lot of transformation, but I also talk about how to be healthier and why we're addressing these things. And I talk about reversing type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, all those things using just diet and not having to use medications. So that piques their ears. They're interested in that. I was asked to speak, and it was a virtual thing. I did 2 different continuing education courses, 3 hours each. One was on GLP-1s, and because that was requested. And I talked about all the pros and cons and how to address it and what needed to be done. And it's just another tool in your tool belt if you're going to use it. It's not a standalone thing, and about why it was. And I also brought up all the lawsuits that are being brought against the companies, because that's a real thing and people need to know. And it's not just a few. So those were things that I've done that it piqued their interest, and they have started, reaching out about things. The schools, your local schools and your public library, they put on programs all the time. And so you can go in there and, find out from the librarian when they're going to have some kind of thing, and you can present. It can be special for you, or it can be in conjunction with another activity. So that's something that I have done before, and it's been successful. School programs. I go into schools. I used to do this as a dental hygienist, and I started doing it as a dietitian, and then also as a health coach. And so what I do now is I talk about, general health. And I do a little education for each class about, reading a label and what is carbohydrate, and, what that, and I'll have real vegetables out there for them to look at and touch and everything. And these are elementary school kids. So the teachers pay attention. Okay. The teachers are paying attention. The kids are like, oh, that was fun, la, la, la. And we sing a little, and I have little fun things for the kids. We sing songs, we do fun stuff, but and they tell their parents about it, but it's the teachers that I'm really, reaching with that. And the kids are getting some information too. So that's something that helps. So, and then of course with my church, because I'm very involved in my church, like Julie had mentioned, I organize a lot of women's things. I teach in a ladies' Bible class. I help organize a ladies' day every year at my church. There's all kinds of evangelism stuff that we do all the time that I'm involved with. And so that's something that that gets your face in front of people. And then when they find out that you help people with these health problems, then they're like, oh, I know Kelly, So there's a lot of folks from my church that have, come on to plan with me. But I'm very direct. I just, I've gotten to where now I just tell people, like, we're not going to just goof around with this. We're going to actually do something, and because this is not just a, la, 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 I'll kind of do it, I'll kind of not do it. This is something that you really want to focus on if you want to get rid of whatever health condition. So those are some ideas. And it helps to see, even if you're somebody who was a licensed professional in something before, but you're not now, you can still be a part of some of the groups. You can still do that. I'm going to a ladies, and I don't know what it's going to be, but I saw it. I got a solicitation about it, and I saw it on Facebook, and I got a solicitation about it, and it's called the Women's Social. It's in lots of places, and this one's in Dallas, and it's a brunch and a networking thing, and it's supposed to be, and it's business ladies, people that are, pretty. Oop.
No,
Are you
okay,
there?
finish your sentence. Yeah, I just want to
Okay.
get this in
And
before we
people
wrap
that
up.
are, involved with involved with businesses. And so either run businesses or leaders in businesses, C-suite businesses. And so they're all going to be there. So I'm interested to see what that's going to produce. We'll see what happens with that.
That is excellent. Excellent. And just so you guys know, we're gonna talk about this and celebrate her on Time for You, or I'm sorry, on Team Time. But Kelly, for the first time, how long have you been coaching, Kelly?
Since 21.
Since 2021, hit her highest group volume she's ever had and went over 15,000 in frontline volume this in the month of May. So her consistency in looking for these opportunities, consistent on social media, consistent showing up at networking on a weekly basis, trying something new, right? Women of Dallas, that's the kind of stuff that gets you what your return is. So, and like Julie said, thank you guys both for sharing, is that not all groups are the same and it's going to take some trial and error. I have walked into rooms that I'm like, I will never be back. And then there's other rooms that you're like, this actually feels really good. I like this quality of, people here. So what's up on the screen now is WOW, Women of Wellness. You can call it whatever you want, but Jen Jones shared about this on a call, something she's doing in the San Diego area of really just gathering women together for healthy walks, going for coffee, looking for deeper connection with people. This is not just like some of the stuff that Kelly said. They're not necessarily opportunities where you're going just to try to promote, sell, look for clients, etc. But you're trying to be with like people like you, like people who like this kind of stuff, because usually healthy people want to get healthier. There's going to be a lot of opportunity here. So ChatGPT made this. I took it from somebody else's and said, put my picture on it, etc. Had a huge response. Started a Facebook group. I have about 30 people in the group, and then I just went ahead and threw an event out for this Saturday. Just picked a park, a walking trail, and there's a coffee shop nearby, and just put it out like whoever can make it. And it's scary. You don't know, like, right? Is anybody going to be there? But you know what? If I don't try, I won't know. But I actually have a feeling this is going to be really successful, especially because of my mindset going into it. So happy to share with you. I'm also probably going to do some virtual coffees and things just because I thought if I do just a monthly meeting, if somebody misses it, it might be months before we can connect again. So there's that. And then the other thing is there are metabolic reset events, and these are more formal events. And really, we're going to decide how to approach this based on what our response is. But this is gathering people together so that we can specifically talk about the solutions that we offer. These are going to be going on all over the country. And there's actually a calendar of ones you can look to see if there's one in your event that you want to attend, a bunch of them after convention so we can start spreading the word. But you can host your own, or if you want to partner together or talk to me, we can figure out how to get one going in your community if it's something that you are interested in. All right, let me stop the recording on this. I know I've got one or two people in the waiting room. And we will stop.